Boxing great Vasiliy Lomachenko has revolutionized the sport. A two-time Olympic gold medalist, he captured his first world title in just his third professional bout and became a two-division champion in his seventh fight.
What a showing by Lomachenko.
And in his 12th pro outing in May 2018, Lomachenko moved up to face then-reigning lightweight world champion Jorge Linares in a bid to become a three-division king. Now, while one could write an entire book on the wide array of techniques that Lomachenko has in his toolbox, today we'll narrow it down to focus on one strategy. So, on this episode of The Blueprint, we'll look at how Vasiliy Lomachenko avoids the center line in his efforts to produce a 10th round stoppage win against Jorge Linares.
It's over! He did it! Lomachenko, the fastest in history to become a three-division world champ!
First, it's important to note that Lomachenko's game plan in the fight was to get close and work on the inside, as Linares enjoyed a 1-inch height advantage and a 3.5-inch reach advantage. So, a shorter fighter would need to be careful when cutting the distance, as it puts the shorter fighter in position to get hit on the way in and on the way out. Part of Lomachenko's strategy then is to avoid what's called the center line, which represents a straight line between the aggressor and his target. This is typically the area in which the majority of offense to the head takes place. One of Lomachenko's primary tactics in avoiding the center line is to move his head to the right. This is also called a slip, and he proactively engages in this defensive move as he's probing and looking for openings. Here he avoids the center line by slipping to the right before and after letting go of some jabs. It's a move that he constantly does throughout the fight, as orthodox fighters typically initiate their attack with a jab. So it works as a way of anticipating that offense while also positioning himself to attack. Here again, he slips to his right. Notice that he puts his right foot outside of Linares' lead foot, a position that gives southpaws an advantage. We'll have more to say about this later, but for now, let's observe that the slip is also helping Lomachenko gauge how much distance he needs to land his left hand. Moments later, he launches a throwaway jab before connecting a left to the body. The old adage says, boxing is about hitting and not getting hit, and this left to the body accomplishes the goal of landing a power shot while avoiding return fire. Here we see Lomachenko again using the jab as a means of putting his lead foot on the outside before throwing another left to the body. So, part of avoiding the center line for a southpaw is to consistently engage in this struggle for lead foot dominance, as it places the left-handed fighter in a better position to both land punches and avoid getting hit. Indeed, he lands some of his best combinations when he is in this advantageous position.
Good combination, and a left hand scores for Lomachenko.
Lomachenko also does other things to avoid the center line. Here he slips the jab. This is different from what we saw before, because in the earlier examples he was proactively leaning to his right in anticipation of the jab, whereas here he is responding directly to Linares' jab. Lomachenko also slips to that direction to avoid the right hand, but this is riskier because a smart fighter can begin to time him and throw the right hand in the direction to which his head is moving. Lomachenko is aware of this, which is why he often slips his punches with a high guard, with the left glove just a bit higher to avoid a potential right hand, which will sometimes follow a jab. Here he returns to the center line, but keeps his gloves up, which allows him to block the right hand. Lomachenko also pivots to his right to avoid the center line. To do that, he'll step around Linares' lead foot while leaning to his right as he does with the slip. Then he'll pivot on the ball of his lead foot and take his back foot with him to spin around Linares and return to his boxing stance. This new location puts him at a roughly 45-degree angle from the center line, which enables him to avoid Linares' offense and puts him in a position to land punches if he is in range. For this particular pivot, he is outside of range and unable to capitalize, but for others he is in range. Sometimes he'll find this 45-degree angle position by changing angles, which is a bit different from pivoting. Like the pivot, he'll lean to his right outside of Linares' lead foot, but instead of spinning on the ball of his lead foot, he'll use the momentum he gets from leaning to his right and bending his knee to simultaneously move both feet to the 45-degree angle position. It's essentially a small leap, which is strategically done to find this position. However, in this instance, he steps a little too far, while Linares, who is picking up on this, begins to step to his right to reposition himself in front of Lomachenko. This makes Lomachenko land at an angle that is much closer to a 90-degree angle than a 45-degree angle. And because of that, he is unable to capitalize and land shots. Either way, whether it's purely for defensive purposes or whether it creates additional offense, pivoting and changing angles are a perfect way for one to manipulate the geometry of the center line. Lomachenko is a master of dealing with the center line, but he also doesn't mind taking risks and making himself vulnerable. Indeed, there are times when he will slip to his left, as he does here, to avoid a jab. Slipping to this direction is much riskier, as it takes him toward the center line along with the momentum of his own movement. If not done correctly, he can run right into a punch. Sometimes, though, the risk is worth the payoff, as he slips here to the inside to get close enough for a combination.
But look at Lomachenko, comfortable in that hot kitchen.
And that's partly what makes Lomachenko such an exciting fighter. He has the technical abilities to just score enough points to win and take minimal damage. Instead, however, he chooses to press the action and take risks, even if that means staying on the center line.
Defensive master, but yet offensive-minded, the best of both worlds.
However, Linares has noticed this by round 4 and lands a counter right hand on Lomachenko. Part of it is Linares' timing, and part of it is Lomachenko being in range and not moving his head either during or after his attack. Then, in round 6, as Lomachenko is gaining momentum and having fun, he gets a little too comfortable and walks up to Linares while completely on the center line.
Linares caught him! Lomachenko goes down!
This was the first knockdown of Lomachenko's pro career. He wasn't badly hurt, but he could have easily avoided by being more careful. Nevertheless, by rounds 8 and 9, he was on the attack again, mixing in slips, pivots, angle changes, along with a wide variety of other tools to produce a devastating body shot knockout.
Lomachenko scores the knockdown! It's over! It's over! He did it! Lomachenko, the fastest in history to become a 3-division world champ!
Vasiliy Lomachenko takes on George Kambosos for the lightweight world title on Saturday, May 11th, live on ESPN and ESPN+.